Hi, I'm Kathy Wong from Crazy Dreamers TV and here for another episode of our show. Today you can see we're here at the headquarters of another amazing social enterprise. Today we're meeting Adam Long, who's one of the co-founders of a company called Conscious Step Socks. Now these socks aren't just any sort of socks. They've been mindfully manufactured. I hear you asking what that is, but we're going to explore that. And these socks actually give to a number of causes. So to give you an idea, they give to things like the rainforest, to marine life, to ending hunger and fighting poverty. That's just a few of the causes that they give to. Anyway, we're just going to go up there now. We're going to meet Adam and we're going to have a bit of a chat in preparation for our interview. Bye guys, Dream Crazy! Hi, it's Kathy Wong here again for Crazy Dreamers TV. And I am delighted to be here today with an amazing guest. So we're going to talk to Adam Long, who's actually one of the co-founders of this gorgeous company called Conscious Step Socks. Now, let me tell you, these socks aren't just your usual socks. These socks give to so many different causes and they're actually mindfully manufactured. I know. What's that term mean? Well, we're going to talk to Adam now and Adam can explain everything. So welcome, Adam.
Thanks, Kathy.
Great to have you here.
Lovely to be here.
Cool. So Adam, I'd like to actually start with each of these shows with asking you, how is it? So, well, first of all, no, let me start again. Tell me about your life. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Who's Adam Long?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Look, as a child, I was inspired by two things in particular: Captain Planet and the environmental message, and Lego. And I always loved the idea that from little pieces you could actually make really big things and really complex things. As a 10-year-old, I won a bet with my brother as to whether I could make a device out of Lego that would make my bed for me in the morning, and I won the bet.
And you won! Wow.
So right from a young age, I always believed that you could actually create things that could change the world. In later years, spent a lot of time volunteering with Engineers Without Borders and an organisation in the Philippines called Gawad Kalinga, and I've just always had a passion for helping.
Oh, cool. So how old were you? What sort of age were you when you started doing all of that?
Yeah, look, my journey and interest into aid, development and impact, I think, really started with the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami, which deeply impacted me and was actually the start of a long period of depression for myself, which I dealt with by volunteering with organisations like Engineers Without Borders. So as an 18-year-old, having just starting to discover what the world is, it felt like there were some pretty harsh realities in the world.
Yeah, amazing. I remember being away. I was on my honeymoon when that happened.
Oh God.
Yeah. I remember all of that. It was pretty awful.
It was tragic and awful, and I was ready as an 18-year-old to buy a ticket and head over to Colombo and help. And someone much wiser sat me down and said, look, you can't just go over there and help, understand the situation and be ready to help the next time. And I took that to heart and so started volunteering with Engineers Without Borders. And it was on a trip that I did with them to the Philippines back in 2005 it was, that I first met a young girl at the time, and her name was Jacobia, and she was about 8 years old. And she was in this village just outside of Tagbilaran on the island of Bohol in the Philippines. And she wasn't in school, and I noticed she wasn't in school for a couple of days in a row. And I thought, okay, this is interesting, what's going on here? And look, I talked to the teachers and said, look, what's going on? Why aren't the kids coming to school? And the teachers say, look, it's not us. We do the best we can with the resources we've got, but the parents don't send the kids to the school. Talk to the parents and say, you know what? Why don't the kids go to school? And she says, look, we really want the kids to get an education, but they just won't go of their own accord. I talked to the mayor. The mayor said, look, it's that the teachers aren't putting enough effort in to keep kids engaged. And I finally got a chance to sit down with Jacobia herself and actually ask her, why aren't you in school? And her answer absolutely blew me away. She said, I don't go to school because there's no toilet there and I don't like peeing in the street. And it was a real mind-blowing moment for me to discover that something as simple as a toilet could have an impact on someone's education and their entire prospects in life. And it was in that moment that I realized that actually small changes, small differences can have a huge impact on people's lives.
Yeah, most definitely. It's that ripple effect, right? I find this all the time. Like, you know, you touch someone's life, but you have no idea who are they touching, and then who in turn are they touching. Wow, what an awesome story. So okay, so that's then how you then started this whole journey now into what you're doing now. So tell us a little bit about how this business here started.
Yeah, sure. So what started with hands-on volunteering in the Philippines developed into more of a director role with Engineers Without Borders, and I had the chance to see another side of aid and development, which is sitting on boards and setting policy. And from that level, the projects aren't so much where can we dig a well, where can we make a direct community engagement, but how do we manage an organisation, the resources associated with it. And I started to learn about the frustrations that happen when it comes to fundraising. How do organisations stay sustainable? How do they get income into the business? The reality is they're not run like businesses, they're run like charities, and donors usually aren't excited to hear that donations are going towards keeping an organisation going, making sure that their work is actually having a big impact, hiring the best people who can actually make the best impact. There seems to be a wall between non-profits and the type of entrepreneurial attitude that can make such a big difference in the private sector. And on the one hand, we see entrepreneurs and celebrate them as, wow, this person made $50 million selling violent computer games, but if someone made $50 million out of a charity, we'd all be looking at them with a microscope, wondering what's going on. So I realized there needed to be a separation of that there needed to be another model with which funds could be generated for charities, letting the charities do the work they're so good at and letting entrepreneurs do what they're really good at. And as luck would have it, that was actually the time I met my two co-founders who already had this idea but bubbling up between them. So Prashant and Hassan, my two very dedicated, very hardworking co-founders, I met them at an event actually. I was running a class on Kickstarter.
Right, so it's the crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah, how to run a Kickstarter campaign. Yeah. And these two guys sauntered up to me afterwards and were sort of talking about socks and poverty. It's like, oh, what's going on here? Yeah. But it turns out we had a really good fit, and they had the seed of this brilliant idea of socks to fund charities in an entrepreneurial way.
And how did they come to socks?
Well, man, it's one of the few ways we can express ourselves. The shirt, jacket and tie might be mandatory, but at least the socks, excuse me.
Yeah, I love those ones.
The ankles.
You've seen those guys?
The socks are a way to express ourselves. Yeah. And the expression side of it was really important. And Prashant often talks about how the charities people support becomes a part of their identity. And they may be giving $10 a month somewhere or volunteering a few hours somewhere else. But it's actually the experience of telling others about it that really lights people up. So if we're going to put something, if we're going to sell something, let's sell something that can be conversation starters. The bright socks that men could wear. And so that was the germination of the idea to do socks.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you're saying there, because, you know, there's that toilet paper company, right, who gives a crap. And I've actually heard stories where people display the toilet paper almost like in their lounge room.
Absolutely.
Because it's got beautiful packaging, but as you said, there's this whole social thing about it, you know. So yeah, I can totally relate. Okay, so socks, all right. So these guys had the idea, you came along, and it just all came together so beautifully.
If only it were that simple.
Oh, okay, not that simple, all right. So
the start of it was, so we worked together really well, and we actually started at Glebe Markets in Sydney to test this idea. We went to a $2 shop, bought some random colourful socks we could find, had them embroidered with the logos of the charities we wanted to support, and just set up a stall at Glebe Markets in Sydney just to see if anyone would buy it or like it.
Fantastic. I always tell people, you know, test as quickly as you can, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you went to the Glebe Markets, you did that, and then how did that go? Obviously it went well.
It went well. So then we said, right, there's a threshold here to turn this from just something nice we do on weekends into an actual social enterprise that can have a big impact. And that threshold was doing a commercial level order from a sock manufacturer. Now, it's not as simple as calling up a sock manufacturer and saying, hey, will you do 10 custom socks for us? They don't return calls.
I'm laughing because you manufacture in India, right?
That's correct,
and I've done manufacturing in India too for our shoes, so yes.
You know the experience.
I know the experience.
And that magical minimum order quantity became the viability level at which we need to hit. So we needed to be able to pay for 6,000 socks, all to arrive in one batch, and still have enough money left over to actually do a bit of sales and marketing, and of course the donations to the charity, which are implicit in every pair that gets sold. So we ran a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo, and Indiegogo were incredible about about it. They actually invited us to their press conferences in Sydney.
Wow.
To which we took off our shoes and started walking on the tables of the journalists. They,
cool.
They certainly didn't forget us after.
No,
after
not
that
at all.
experience.
Do you want to walk here today?
I'd be delighted to. Yeah, you give me the cue and I'll do it.
I don't think Martin would be too happy about it. He's got all the lighting all sorted out. Yeah.
So we managed to get there. So we pre-sold $25,000 worth of socks in 30 days. And we're like, great, this thing is launched, we're off and away. So we put our order into the manufacturer and waited. And waited. And waited. And it ended up taking about 9 months for that first batch to arrive. There were excuses, there were phone calls that weren't returned, and it took a long time to actually get that first batch. Because we were such a small order, we were getting pushed down the chain, and it just couldn't get the attention that we needed. And we were stuck with the supplier because they were the most ethical one that we could find at the time. So 9 months later, well after Christmas, and we'd really hoped to have them out by Christmas, the socks finally arrived, and we were so excited. So we're ripping over these boxes, we're picking up the socks and we're looking at them, and our faces just fell. The embroideries on them were a mess. There was threads everywhere. The ones that looked like pencils looked like blobs. It was a nightmare.
So you couldn't use them?
Couldn't use them.
Yeah.
It was an absolute mess. So we ended up rejecting nearly half the order. Now, that's a simple thing to say, but that involved a week of calling in friends, family to come through, go through all the boxes, check each sock individually, pair them back together and try and get enough that we could reasonably sell in order to get enough money to make the next order again. So we're nearly dead in the water at that point. And realise the importance of finding good manufacturers.
Yeah, but now obviously you've sorted that out, you've gone through that whole process.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's any other way. You know, I know with my own experience talking to other manufacturers or other, social entrepreneurs who've had to do manufacturing, we've all gone down that track. So tell us a little bit then about the actual socks, the way they work. Because I love the way that, this one here is socks that protect the planet. And so it says here that plants trees, protects oceans, protects forests, and then I notice you've got one here which is about HIV, malaria and relief. So you've got a number of different causes. I love the way you've got these different themes. How did you come to this decision? Because I know that, I often get questioned about, well, I don't know what cause to support. And I know even with myself, it just seems so overwhelming. There's so many areas I could have helped. So how did you come to, this idea?
Yeah, sure. Look, we recognise that the three of us who started the organisation weren't experts in charity and aid or development, really interested in it, but I have enough healthy respect of the people who do this as their job that they understand what's most important. They understand the allocation of resources. So we didn't want to go into doing our own charity projects. We wanted to team up with people who are already doing really great work. So each pair is partnered with a different organisation. So we have partnerships with the UN AIDS program, with Oxfam, Malaria No More, Oceana, Trees for the Future, Action Against Hunger, and there's more that I'll leave out because there's just so many of them. We started choosing our charities based on the Millennium Development Goals, which used to be the UN's framework for the goals that needed to be hit in order to fight poverty and make the world a better place. Now, they've been superseded by the Sustainable Development Goals, of which there's 17, I believe. Yep. And that's continuing to drive the organisations we look for.
Right, so then just to understand a little bit more about how you then partner, so they basically are happy to lend their name to the product and then you actually then donate to their cause.
Yeah, that's right. So
just to understand the
business
business model.
So we set up an agreement with each of these wonderful organisations as to what the funds are going to go towards, so that when we say on the packaging that 20 trees in Uganda will get planted as a result of you buying this pair, that actually happens and they follow through on it. So the important thing is they know how to do it properly, but we guarantee them the funds, and we can be entrepreneurial about that. So if we run a competition and give them away or run a sale, they'll still get the donation for every single pair that leaves one of our warehouses. So we can be entrepreneurial, they can do their amazing work, and we work really well in synergy that way. And over time it's built up and really brought momentum. So recently there was a month where we gave $100,000 to charity, and it was just, it just felt like a big moment for us because the three of us were never going to be able to afford that without this gaining momentum and building.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So, you know, because how long has the business been going for, Adam?
5 years now.
Yeah, so it's not a long time, you know, and you've achieved so much impact, which is amazing to see. So, I also mentioned the mindful manufacturing. So can you just give us a little bit of a rundown about that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So the team that runs manufacturing are really passionate about manufacturing in a way that gives back to the planet more than it takes. So that's more than just trying to be less bad in manufacturing, but actually look for positive impacts on the way. And there's actually some standards that we comply with that really set that. So it's fair trade certified cotton, and that means it's fair trade all the way down the supply chain. It supports small and local cotton farmers in India. The dyes used are produced in a fantastic way. It's just so different from the polyester that floods socks and the ones you can get.
So much nasty stuff out there. But did you find that challenging? Because it's actually, you know, quite challenging to get that supply chain happening. So I can see. So that was another challenge for you.
Yeah. So we have a wonderful manufacturing partner now. They were the 12th factory that we ended up placing an order with. And it took that long to find ones who would deliver when they said they would.
It did take 9 months.
We're actually certified with SEDEX and Fair Trade certified cotton. There's a lot of people actually claiming that, and we really had to ask for the evidence to prove that they were, and it took a little while to find an organisation that will do that. So to help us, we hired an agent who is on the ground in New Delhi and assists us by checking things out and doing all the due diligence to make sure it's all on board.
Because even finding an agent is not that easy. I know I've had that experience myself, you know.
Yeah.
So what is something in all of this experience that you've had, what is maybe a key takeout for you that you could share with our, you know, viewers?
Yeah.
It might be something you might do differently, or just a learning for you that you could share.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I'm sure there's many, right? But, you know, what's one that really stands out for you?
For the entrepreneurs out there, I'd say it's going to take a lot longer than you think. Whatever length of time you think. I mean, at the time, one of the partners thought it was going to pay for their wedding.
And when was the wedding?
Like 4 years ago now.
Okay.
And it really does take time to build momentum in a business to get things in place and get it there. But it's worth it. There were times when Prashant and Hassan, for example, were sleeping on couches and eating noodles every day just to get through those early days of waiting for socks to arrive so we could sell them, so we could make the donation, so we could pay some staff and continue the good work of the
I can totally relate to that, and I hear so many of these stories because this is the thing, you know, the passion that's there, and, you know, I can hear it in your voice too, and I can hear by some of the stories that, you know, because again, it's like, well, how do you get through these tough times? How have you personally got through the tough times? You know?
Look, and it is worth acknowledging that there are some incredibly tough times along the way, and I think it's really important to not do it alone. I think when starting a business or starting an organisation, having partners that can balance you out, that are optimistic on the days that you're feeling down, that can problem solve things with you, that also understand what you're going through, makes a real difference. Now, you and I have talked previously that your partners are also a bit like getting married, and so you need to choose them very carefully.
That's right. Yeah.
But they're like a good marriage. They're well worth having.
Brilliant. So where to from here for you?
So the organisation continues to grow. We've got lots of new partners coming in before Christmas this year. We expanded from men's socks into women's socks.
Good. So I can get a pair of ladies' socks.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we actually discovered in the early days, we called every single customer that made an order, as every good startup should, and just asked them about how they found out about us, what it was like. We noticed this trend, and actually more women were buying our men's socks than men were buying men's socks.
Or were women buying them for the men?
They were buying them for the men, and we're like, okay, well, this is great. So we did catch up a little while ago and start offering them as well. So this week just continues to grow.
Oh, brilliant! That's great. And if we could just finish off with, I mean, we've talked about some of your challenges. What's been your best moment? What's been the biggest highlight for you?
Yeah, sure. Look, we get to sit a little bit behind the scenes sometimes, and the charities that we work with are just constantly making a huge impact all over the place. And just to see the cumulative effect of that, we get to see it right from the point where someone buys a sock through to the point where trees get planted that create someone's livelihood, that a child in a refugee camp gets to be fed. And I just love knowing that little string goes all the way across the world, across time zones, across warehouses, from someone wearing the socks in downtown Melbourne through to someone getting a meal as a result. And that's happening all the time now. So it's not so much one big moment as knowing that there's a combined impact from all these little moments. All
but you're still getting a buzz from that too, right?
Can you tell?
Yes, of course. Well, look, that is amazing, you know. And how can our community help you in any way?
Yeah, sure. Look, it's just remembering that the world is changed by the combined impact of lots of small choices. And it's the things you buy, it's the impact you make, it's the choices that you make, all add up together. So really, I think it comes down to being vocal in supporting the causes that matter to the community. I mean, wearing the socks for the causes that you support is one thing. They also make great gifts. That Christmas is coming up soon. But beyond that, it's have conversations with people. The socks are loud. They're there to spark conversation, talk about the issues that matter, and be a part of driving them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And we all have a voice, right? And it's a very powerful thing.
Absolutely.
So, and thank you so much for being here today. I love talking to you. I really appreciate that. So guys, that was our conversation for today. Hope you enjoyed that. And I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon on the next episode of Crazy Dreamers TV. Bye guys!
Oh.